Welcome to the Gilmore Gals podcast.
We are obviously amateurs, so please bear with us through the first few episodes as we were finding our footing.
After that, we got proper mics and the sound quality improved drastically. Thanks for listening.
Copper boom! Hello, dragonflies! Welcome to the Gilmore Gals podcast, where we take a deep dive into each episode of the beloved show.
We're your hosts, Sarah
and Ani.
We're huge Gilmore Girls fans, and we're besties. In this podcast, we talk about everything Gilmore, from the pop culture references to the tiniest minutia only a true Gilmore nerd would care about.
Copper boom! Hello, welcome back, dragonflies. Hi, Sarah. How you doing?
I'm good, Ani. How are you doing today?
Oh, you know how it goes. All ready for the 4th?
Oh, yes, that's right.
We are releasing this on the 4th, so no one's going to listen to it on the 4th.
Probably not. But if you are listening on the 4th, thank you. Happy 4th of July.
Yep.
If you are American, we actually have several viewers from other countries. Yeah. So if you are not from the US and you are listening on July 4th,
Happy
Tuesday.
I guess.
Yeah.
And I just realized you called them viewers. I totally think that too. They're not viewers. They're listeners.
You're not viewers, you're listeners.
So, should we jump right in?
Let's do it.
All right.
So this episode, we are covering Season 1, Episode 5, Cinnamon's Wake, written by Amy Sherman Palladino and Daniel Palladino, and directed by Michael Katelman.
It aired on November 2nd, the year 2000. Max manages to get Lorelai to meet him for a coffee as a pre-date date. Their first attempt at a real date gets preempted by the sudden death of Babette and Mory's beloved cat, Cinnamon. Rory finds out that Lorelai is interested in Max, and Rory informs Dean that she's interested in him, even after he confirms his role as creepy stalker guy. And she promptly runs away.
All right, let's jump into some fast facts. As the resident cat mama, I had to dig up some fun cat facts. On their website's blog, Litter Robot has a list of 39 fascinating cat facts. Now, as much as I would love to share all 39 with you, Ani and all of the other non-cat people listening would probably mutiny. So keeping in mind that we have a whole show to do, I cut it down to my top 3. In no particular order, we have male cats are more likely to be left pawed, and female cats are more likely to be right pawed.
Hold up. What do we mean by left pawed and right pawed? They don't write? What are we doing?
They don't write, but, for knocking things off, or, knocking things off counters, or
Clawing people,
or playing with toys, or that kind of thing.
Gotcha.
But my boy, I'm pretty sure he's actually right paw dominant, as well as my girls. But I thought that was very interesting.
Very.
Number 2, the ancient city. Ani, correct me if I'm mispronouncing this. Bobastium?
Sure, let's go with that.
Okay. Was founded in order to worship Bastet, the feline deity. In 1888, around 80,000 buried felines were found in an Egyptian tomb.
Whoa.
It doesn't say specifically if it was in the city, but just in a tomb in Egypt. Some were even buried with royal offerings, including provisions like milk and mice.
Wow, that is so cool.
And finally, when you think of black cats and Halloween, you usually associate them with witches. But even before that, during the original Gaelic harvest festival known as Samhain, a black cat had a different meaning. You were to leave a saucer of milk out at night for a large black cat, which would have a white spot on its chest. And if you did, it would bless your house. But if you didn't, it would curse your house.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That is cray. So this is why we associate cats with witches?
No, that came later on, I believe, maybe during the witch hunts and stuff. I think I heard that story a long time ago, but I'll have to look into that one again.
Very
maybe
interesting.
For another episode, I can look into that one.
Another cat episode.
Yes.
Awesome. Fast fact number 2. In this episode, we get our first mention of Al's Pancake World. Yes, ma'am. According to GilmoreGirls.fandom.com, Al's was first a pancake house, but then Al, apocryphally, got bored with that, and he decided to switch to international cuisine because, of course, one leads to the other naturally.
Mm-hmm. Naturally. International House of Pancakes, so yeah.
I had not put that together. Very good. I like that. Okay, so what I think is curious is that we never actually see Al or his restaurant, but they're mentioned multiple times throughout the series. And some people think that in one episode, I think much later on in the series, she says, Lorelai says hello to 3 guys on the street, and one of them is Al, but we don't know that that's that Al.
Oh.
So we're going to have to keep our eyes peeled for that one when we get to it. Now, Rory and Lorelai eat at Al's frequently, so this is mentioned many times. They never go there for pancakes because that's not what he makes. It's just called Al's Pancake World. And apparently they particularly go there when they are in the mood for Chinese food.
As you do. And finally, Scott Cohen, who plays Max Medina, was actually a substitute teacher in real life in Queens, New York when he was in his early 20s. He was offered a permanent position after teaching a kindergarten music class for a bit. And he has also taught acting and clowning in addition to music.
I didn't bother to look up what clowning meant. I'm guessing juggling. I don't know, riding a unicycle.
I don't know. I can't imagine him as a clown. That's very interesting.
It is a noble art. Okay, shall we get into our recap?
Let's dive in.
This episode begins with Friday night dinner sans Richard, sadly, who we find out is away on business in Germany. Now, Lorelai makes an offhanded comment about Emily and Richard knowing a Nazi, because, Richard's in Germany, which of course Emily doesn't get because she doesn't understand Lorelai's humor. And then Rory has to clarify that it was simply a joke.
Emily tells Lorelai that Claudia, a cousin that she doesn't even know, has died. She was Lorelai's father's grandmother's sister's girl. So, third cousin?
I have no idea how that works.
Me either. Lorelai says that she has no idea who Claudia is. And Emily tells her that they went to their house for the moon landing, which by my math would have made Lorelai a year old at the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So a toddler. So of course she's not going to remember. Lorelai responds with, I have no memory of this, which is the exact same phrase, Ani, that you say to me all the time whenever I say something to you. Is that where you got this?
I mean, subconsciously it must be, because I do say that all the time. I say it especially in reference to like, I'll be watching a movie or something that I've watched with Ryan before. And he'll be like, yeah, we saw this movie before. And I have no memory. I don't retain stories. I have no idea.
even like things we've done. Like, oh, remember when we did this? I have no memory of this.
I want to mention something real quick before we get to the next thing here is there's an episode, the one where Richard and Emily have their like wedding vow renewals, where there's a guy in attendance who's speaking to somebody off camera, and he's talking about how this whole thing works, like the once removed, second cousin, whatever. And he's explaining how that works. Every single time I watch that episode, I try to pay super close attention to what he's saying, and I try to follow it. And I can't for the life of me understand what he's saying. I don't get it. I don't get it. So when we get there, I'll point it out. You'll know what I'm talking about. But yeah, I just find it hilarious because I have tried so many times to get it, and I just don't get it. And I guess it doesn't really matter, but I would like to understand it,
Yeah, I know. Because I never understood the like once removed, twice removed. Like, what does that even mean? I have no idea.
And in like large families, it's just your cousin. It's your cousin. Who cares?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So then Emily then suddenly recalls the name of a Nazi that they knew, to the horror of both Rory and Lorelai. And then Emily smugly replies, "No, dear, that was a joke."
I laughed out loud. Oh,
I know, right?
I thought that was so funny. I was like, man, she doesn't joke often, but when she does,
she's very good at it. I love Lorelai's, but she's like, "Mother, that's heinous." She's just like horribly offended.
So the next day we see is the Chilton Bake Sale, and Rory is freaking out that Lorelai is just chilling in the morning and is not baking. And she reminds her that Chilton expects things to be homemade. And of course, Lorelai's way of having it covered, which she assures Rory it is to have Suki bake everything.
100% what I would have done.
Absolutely. I mean, when have we ever seen Lorelai bake anything?
Oh, she does not bake. She does not cook. So one thing that any Gilmore fanatic will notice is that this is very obscure. So you got to be a real fan. Lorelai has her hair uncharacteristically up in a clip in this scene. And we don't see this a lot on her throughout the series. She normally has her hair down, or she's got a couple little clippies in the front, or she'll do like a ponytail, like a low pony, right? But in the final season, there's an episode where Lorelai is having an existential crisis, right? Because she's not sure if she really likes the things she likes, or if she only likes the things she likes because they're things that her parents would disapprove of. For example, Pop-Tarts. Lorelai sitting at the kitchen table eating an entire box of Pop-Tarts, trying to figure out, do I really like these? So in that episode, later on, Lorelai puts her hair up in a clip, just like she has it in this scene in this episode, just to test out the look and see what she honestly thinks about that style. And Emily visits her at the Dragonfly and sees her with her hair all nice and tidy and comments that she likes it like that, thus lending support to the fact that Lorelai never, ever normally puts her hair up because she knows her mother would like it. There you go. To our fans. You're welcome.
The girls venture outside and we see Babette and Mory out for a walk with Cinnamon the cat, who is being pulled in a wagon. We find out that she isn't walking very well, so Mory made the wagon for her, complete with a canopy in case she needs her privacy. And you know we have a stroller for our cats, right?
Oh, yeah.
We live in an apartment building, and we live in Southern California, so there be earthquakes, and we had a pretty decent sized one a few years ago, and we're on the second floor, and we realized that if there ever were like a real emergency, we would need to be able to get out of the apartment with the cats and not necessarily have access to our car. And so we thought, oh, well, hey, let's just get a stroller. And it works out really well because our vet is really nearby, so we can just walk them to the vet.
I think that's a smart idea. I will admit, though, that I think that because I love you. Because whenever I see other people pushing their dogs or their cats in a stroller, I'm like, seriously? Seriously? What's happening here? What are you doing with your life?
It's always so funny, like walking down the street with them. And like the other day, I had to take Lady, one of our cats, to the vet, and I passed, which I'm assuming was a mother with her human baby and and she's like looking to see my baby, and it's a cat, and she's like, oh, okay, yeah,
that's wonderful. So I have to point out, because I'm a language snob and a pain in the ass, that when Mory and Babette say that they're out on a passeggiata, both of them pronounce it incorrectly because they're not Italian, and that's understandable. But what is not okay is that Babette, she says passeggiata, right? She pronounces it with a soft G, which is right. But then Mory, immediately after hearing her say it almost correctly, repeats the word and says it passeggiata with a hard G. So as a language nerd, I find this highly frustrating. Does it bother anybody else? Is it just me?
I mean, I'm not a language nerd, so I didn't know. I assumed that Mory was the one saying it correctly because he seems to be correcting Babette. So I did not know until you just told me.
It comes across as him correcting her?
That's what I thought. Yeah.
I see. Oh, how funny.
Yeah.
And we just, in our culture, we just assume the man knows more than the woman, right?
Yes, I don't know.
Well, anyway, she goes, it sounds so sexy when he said, no, it does not sound sexy. It sounds like he mispronounced it because he did. End of rant.
Next, Rory gets on her bus and doesn't notice Dean sit down right behind her. He just pops up and says, hey. And Rory rightfully screams like she's been stabbed. He's obviously trying to flirt with her, and she's obviously very nervous. She's super serious and can't even bring herself to turn around to look at him.
So 2 things that I think are weird about this scene. Let's make it 3 because I can't stand Dean. Dean looks weird. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2, he uses the word solvent, as in I'm solvent now because I have money, right? There's no way that this dummy knows what that word means. There's no way. There's no way he knows that word. And okay, I think this is an example of the writers not always considering the speaker when they write dialogue. Like they just write funny dialogue and they're like, oh yeah, sure, let's throw this word in there. No, I'm sorry, Dean would not use that word. Don't you think?
I agree with that.
Solvent. And then especially because later we establish he doesn't read.
He knows that Rory's a brainy chick, right? And so maybe he's trying to make himself sound smart.
I hadn't thought of that.
Maybe he like looked up a word to, for money, like.
I didn't even give him that much credit. The other thing I think is weird about this scene here is that Stars Hollow is the size of a matchbook of a postage stamp, and yet there are several bus stops. And the distance between them appears to be, 200 feet, maybe. And because that's how long Dean's on the bus. He gets on and then he hops off at a different. Do you see what I'm saying here? Didn't it seem awkward?
I absolutely. I mean, I was going to say something about this too. And my first thing was, what kind of tiny town like that even has a bus stop?
Yeah.
But then I was like, well, I guess, they're close to a big city. So then I was like, okay, that makes sense. But then for them to have two in such a small town does not make sense.
It's so weird.
Yeah. When Dean leaves the bus, he says, goodbye, Lorelai Gilmore. At least he gets her name right.
Right. Unlike Tristan.
Yeah, unlike Tristan. Although Tristan does it intentionally.
The reason why I think this is important that you mentioned that is because we hear goodbye, Lorelai Gilmore later on in the episode.
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Next, this is one of my favorite scenes. At the Independence Inn, a group of French businessmen enter, and Michel decides to pretend to not speak French so he doesn't have to deal with them, saying he is a simple country boy from Texas. I love my French accent. But in his French accent. Like, he doesn't even try to pull off an American accent.
It's so good. So Lorelai catches him doing this, and she's his boss, and so she does this very TV thing where she pulls Michelle aside to speak to him, but they literally take like a 6-inch step to the right, and that's supposed to make it a private conversation, and suddenly this group of men can't hear them.
Right.
It's so weird. So we're back at Chilton. We're at the bake sale, which is amazing. It looks like something from the Great British Bake Off.
It's crazy. Yeah, rich people are crazy.
Rich people are crazy.
So Suki, of course, has prepared an amazing spread for the table. And this actually reminded me of something that happened in elementary school. I went to a very small Christian school. I think there were maybe 140 kids in the entire school. We had some special events. I don't remember exactly what it was. I think it was maybe Grandparents' Day. Anyway, I kindly volunteered my grandmother to make cupcakes for the entire school. I don't remember exactly how long she had to make them. I checked with my mom. She didn't remember either, but she thinks it was only a couple of days because she remembers my grandma working late into the night, at least 2 nights before the event. And my grandma worked full time during the day at this point too. Yeah. And not only did my grandma make 140 plus cupcakes, so 12 dozen cupcakes, but she personalized each and every one with each student's name.
No way.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing?
God, that's amazing. And you were so mean.
I know. And I don't even know why, what possessed me to do that. But I was just like, oh yeah, my grandma bakes.
Oh my gosh. She was amazing.
She was amazing.
Holy crap. I would have just gone to the store and bought the damn cupcakes. I mean, come on.
I know. And then to put everybody's name on them. Like, she got a list of the students and made one for every single student.
Now, I wonder if this is because it was, eons ago, or because it was a small town that they released a list of the kids' names. Because I don't think that would happen today.
No, I don't think it would. I mean, this would have been, how young was I? So this would have probably still been the 80s.
Wow.
Yeah.
We're so old.
We're so old.
Wow, that's a great story. Thank you for sharing. Max Medina. Max approaches the table, and Lorelai, she's a little icy. She's obviously still upset about the Shakespeare test fiasco. And he's explaining to her, I was just doing what I had to do, that, he's going to do his damnedest to make sure that Rory gets through Chilton in one piece. And then he promptly bails on Chilton and disappears from Rory's life altogether, which I think is, Lorelai's fault, but, we'll get to that later.
Yeah. Max proceeds to ask Lorelai out, and her first reaction is to say yes. But then she flip-flops back and forth a few times because this is obviously a very complicated situation for a number of reasons. He asks her if she likes coffee, and she replies with probably one of the most famous quotes from the series, "Only with my oxygen." She tells him that she goes to a coffee shop in Hartford before her business class, and if someone were to show up there, she wouldn't go out of her way to avoid them.
I found this exchange, like many of their exchanges, excruciating. Did you?
No, well, you know that Max is one of the few of her suitors that I actually kind of like. And, the only issue that I kind of had with him was that I felt like maybe he was a little too persistent. Like, she told you no, like back off. But it wasn't a hard no, like you could tell she wanted to say yes. So
she was a little wishy-washy about it.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, something has to happen in the show. So of course they're going to get together.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I find that a lot of their banter, difficult. Not because they don't have chemistry, not because they're not good actors, but it's just, it feels forced. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I bet you we're going to get hate mail on this, but
Oh, wait till Christopher comes in. That's going to roll in then.
So next we see Rory and Lane walking down the street in Stars Hollow. And once again, we see Babette and Mory and Cinnamon, who we found out ate some questionable clams from Al's Pancake World.
I have a little bit of a background catch for you all. At 12 minutes, 37 seconds, there is a lady pushing what is obviously a doll in a stroller in the background. I will take a screenshot and post it for you all on our socials.
Oh my God, Sarah. I've watched this 5 million times. I have never noticed this before, but it's so obvious.
Isn't I was like, what in the it doesn't even look it doesn't even look anything like a real baby. It is so obviously a doll. It's so funny.
Like the point, like they could have had that extra walk in the other direction, and you wouldn't have had to see a baby at all. Why didn't they just do that?
Or just have her walk just by herself. Like that would have been better than that doll.
You know what I wonder? If they planned on a real baby and then the baby couldn't make it at the last second, so they just shoved a baby. But see, why would you even do that?
I don't know.
If there's anybody out there who has to do with extras, let us know, because I'm curious. So Rory, from where she is, she can see into Dosey's market, and she sees that Dean's working. And so she finds a really awkward way to ditch Lane so that she can go into the market by herself to see Dean.
That was so funny.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know. I guess she's shy, but it's like, just tell her like, hey, cute boy's working. I want to go in there.
Seriously, it's her best friend.
Yeah. Well, one weird thing about me, I love watching scenes in supermarkets in older TV shows and movies because I love to see all the old marketing and logos.
Yes. Oh my gosh. You know which one I always catch is like Sprite and Pepsi. They've changed a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. And even like Doritos or Cheetos and stuff like that.
So Kirk approaches Miss Patty, whom he apparently has never met before, even though in a future episode, a few seasons later, Miss Patty says to Kirk that she's known him since he was 2.
Yeah, this bugged me so much, but you can just tell that they just didn't really know what they were going to do with Kirk yet.
Yeah.
And then once they figure it out, then it's gold.
Right.
And this gives us Kirk's job number 2, which is assistant manager of Dosey's Market, and he gets after Miss Patty for sampling the produce. Have you ever sampled produce at a market?
I can't say that I have. I'm very lawful good, and I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to break any rules,
Same here. I haven't either. The only thing I've ever done is, like at Costco when they have the free samples.
Oh, those are the best. I love Costco. Can I tell you how excruciating it is to be on a wellness plan, a diet, and you go to Costco to do some shopping, and there's all these samples everywhere, and they're so good.
And you're like, I can't.
So next we're in Hartford, and Lorelai enters the coffee shop where Max Medina is waiting for her. Exchange some more excruciating banter, even when a stranger comes and sits at the counter between them, on the stool between them.
Why didn't she just sit next to him?
I know, right? So weird. It really has to do with camera angles, I'm guessing.
Probably. Lorelai gives him her card, and Max leaves, saying goodbye, Lorelai Gilmore, which is the second time we have heard a gentleman say those words to a Gilmore girl in this episode.
A gentleman or Dean. I have barely noticed now that we're doing this rewatch podcast that there's a lot of this in many episodes where the thing that's happening to Lorelai is also happening to Rory in a different way. Yeah, there's a lot of that sort of, I don't know what you call that, juxtaposition, mirroring. I don't know. But we should keep our eyes peeled for it.
Yeah. You're so smart.
Oh, yeah. Except I never caught it before. Before now. Lorelai and Suki are at Luke's discussing the Medina dilemma. And Lorelai is talking about Max, and she says he's an amazing guy. And then she pronounces amazing like a normal person pronounces it. She says amazing, not amazing. Did you catch it? Did you catch that? It's
I don't know, but I really need, okay, listeners, I really, really need you guys to comment or send us an email or something if anybody else has heard amazing the way that Ani hears it.
Amazing.
I only heard it the one time when I closed my eyes and really listened for it. So I'm not saying you're crazy, but I'm not saying,
I'm not saying you're not.
Well, while the girls are eating their lunch, Luke apparently forgot the onion and is off in the kitchen. So Suki, of course, takes it upon herself to go behind the counter and begins to not only get the onion for her and Lorelai's dishes, but she is also adding garnishes to other people's dishes. And this is a bit of a runner for Suki. She's often going around improving other people's recipes. And also, please note, she is wearing a yellow Band-Aid.
I feel like the Band-Aids eventually end. Like, she doesn't always do that.
Probably.
Yeah.
But I'm going to keep track until that happens.
Excellent. And the first time we see her without a Band-Aid, I'd be curious to know when that is.
Yes.
So then Rory rushes in, and she tells Lorelai something has happened to Cinnamon, and the girls head out of there real quick. And Lorelai, in the next scene, Lorelai and Rory enter Babette and Mory's house, and we see that Cinnamon has unfortunately passed away. And Babette tells the girls that she thought Cinnamon was sleeping, so she gave her a nudge, and she rolled off the couch. But since Babette had just waxed the floor, Cinnamon went flying across the room, knocking over a lamp, which is a funny visual in a very sad situation.
I love, like, a couple scenes later when Lane and Rory are at the wake, and Lane's like, did you laugh? And Rory's like, no. And she's like, did you want to? And she's like, yeah. Well, poor Mory blames himself for Cinnamon's death because he gave her some of the questionable clams from Al's. But the vet assures them that Cinnamon was, in fact, 260 years old in human years, but she actually means cat years. But that's actually impossible because 260 years in cat years is 50 human years. And the average lifespan of a cat is around 13 to 17 years, although some can live to be 20 or even a little bit older. So there's no way that Cinnamon was that old.
Maybe it was just hyperbolic for the sake of humor.
Maybe.
So next scene, we see numerous members of the town arriving at Babette and Mory's to pay their respects to Cinnamon and to them.
Michelle enters with something for Lorelai that she had needed from the inn, and he stops a man in a plaid shirt and overalls who is passing the door as Michelle enters. And he says, "Yoo-hoo, hee-haw, man," which is a reference to a country-themed variety show that aired from 1967 to 1997.
What was the show?
Hee-haw.
Hee-haw was a show?
It was a show. I was going to ask if you remembered it, but apparently not.
I have no idea. What is that?
It was a a variety show, and it was like country western stars would come on, and they would guest star each week, and they would play music, and there would be different like skits and things they had like regular actors that would like an SNL kind of thing, but like but country theme. Yeah. And it was on like during prime time, like Sunday night. So, you know, it was like wholesome and like family. My family used to watch it when I was a little kid.
Well, that's adorable.
I remember watching it. Yeah.
Oh, and it was on for 30 years?
It was on for like 30 years. Yeah.
Well, Michelle is shocked to learn that this is a wait for a cat. But later, once he becomes a pet parent to his two, what are they, chow chows?
Mm-hmm.
He completely changes his tune about that.
He does. Suki and Luke both show up at the exact same time with gobs of food. They both try to enter the door at the same time, which is pretty funny. And Suki tries to make an elaborate plan and flow for the setup, but Luke just throws his food down, yells, "Dig in," and walks away so that people can start grabbing stuff out of the bags. They have very different personalities, those two.
They sure do. But I think it's really nice to see how, as the show goes on, like through the seasons, they end up being friends and they're friendly with each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think that's sweet. But what I don't like is that Luke is very ungentlemanly in this scene, trying to like get through the door. You're supposed to let the lady through first.
Yeah.
I think it's uncharacteristic of Luke. I think he definitely would have let her through first.
Maybe he was just having a grouchy day. I don't know.
A day. Or maybe we should remember these aren't real people and there's a script that they have to follow.
I guess.
So from Babette's house on her porch, Rory can see Mr. Medina show up to her house. And she's rightly very confused by this.
Lorelai is mortified with everything going on. She completely forgot that it was Thursday, which was her date night with Max. And this was not at all how Lorelai wanted to break the news to Rory. Lorelai runs over to the house to apologize to Max, letting him know that there had been an emergency and she meant to cancel their date. He is immediately concerned for Rory, which I thought was very sweet.
Yeah, that was nice.
See?
Mm-hmm. Sure. I never said he wasn't nice. He's just annoying. His stupid hair, too. So Lorelai tries to explain to Max about Cinnamon, the cat, that it's a wake for a cat. And of course, he's like, seriously, like total non-belief, as any sane person's reaction would be. But Lorelai insists that she really does want to go out with him and she wants to reschedule. So they part on friendly terms. And we find out later that Max Medina drives a Mustang. Really? Do you see him in a Mustang? I see him in a Volvo.
Yeah, I thought that was I thought that was a little far-fetched too. I was like, come on.
Although he is a bit of a tool, so maybe he would buy a Mustang just to look cool. I don't know.
I don't know. He does teach at a pretty, uppity school. Maybe he got made fun of for the Volvo, so get a Mustang. I don't know.
Maybe.
He's getting bullied by Tristan and his friends.
Oh my God.
So back in Babette and Mory's house, Kirk approaches Miss Patty, who calls him Kirk the Jerk.
And he apologizes to her, saying that he wasn't aware that she was the Miss Patty. And he lets her know that it's been made clear to him that she can basically do whatever she wants.
Miss Patty tells him that it's okay. She always forgives. Once.
Very menacing.
Mm-hmm.
Kirk says that the owner of the grocery store told him that Patty can do whatever she wants. But the owner of the grocery store is Taylor Dozy, who we haven't met, granted. But for those of us who know him, does that really sound like Taylor Dozy? Patty can do whatever she wants?
It does not.
It does not. Lorelai meets Babette in the world's tiniest kitchen. Babette is like 3 feet tall, so their kitchen is super small. And in fact, we see that everything in this house was probably built for Babette. And poor tall Mory, who's like 7 feet tall, has had to adjust. And by adjust, she means he's had a few concussions along the way.
I have a lot to say about this house, so strap it. So as we have established, if you've been listening from the beginning, I am 5'1". And so this house and this kitchen is my dream kitchen because in our apartment, our kitchen is so tall. I can only reach the bottom shelf of any of our cabinets. It's ridiculous. Maybe I'll post a pic on our socials so you all can see me trying to like... My dream is to have a kitchen where I don't have to ask my husband to get me something from the second shelf. And the sink. Oh my gosh, to have an appropriately sized sink and not one that comes up to my boobs.
Oh my,
it's
is it
like
really that tall?
It's that tall. Like I can be like washing dishes and come away and like my boobs are like drenched. It's insane.
I will say I have been in your kitchen, and it even some of the stuff at the very top feels tall for me, and I'm really tall.
Yeah, it's like it's got to be some, like our highest shelves have to be at least 6 feet. Like even Mikey has to like get on the step stool for some of that stuff. I also wanted to say that the part where Babette tells Lorelai that she never thought she'd ever find someone to love her, and then she met Mory, truer words were never spoken. Because that's exactly how I felt until I met my husband. And I just really related to Babette a lot in this episode. And then finally, on a more serious note, this scene was really hard for me and Mikey to watch. I've never seen him cry, but he definitely squeezed my hand pretty tight when we were watching this. We have 3 cats and no human children. So our cats are really like our babies. And Sir and Lady were a year old when we adopted them. So they weren't tiny when we first got them, but Tony was only a few months old when I found her. She had been abandoned and she was so tiny that she could fit in my hand.
And you have small hands.
And I have small hands. So when Babette talks about Cinnamon being so small she could sleep in her shoe, I just lost it. This episode was so emotional for me. But it has a lot of really, what I loved about this episode too was that, it had a lot of heavy moments, but they were really good at bringing the comedy into it too, So it's like, it had a good balance. So I really appreciated that.
What do they call that? Comedic relief?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, next scene, Rory is sitting outside and Dean comes out to talk to her. And he seems a little annoyed with her for the first time. He's saying that, he thought that she liked him, but it just seems like he's been bugging her. So he's going to leave her alone from now on.
Which, okay, he's talked to her 3 times. So it's not like he's talked to her all that much. I don't know.
But every time he does, she either doesn't react at all, or she
this is true,
or she moves away.
Yeah, okay, this is true.
Yeah.
This is true. After a moment's hesitation, Rory builds up the courage to stop him and tell him that she actually is interested in him. And then she goes, "I gotta go," and runs away. And that was the correct response, girl. Run and never look back. I mean, if he's getting, if he's already getting kind of snarky with you and you're not even gone on your first date yet, that's kind of a red flag right there.
And also, what else is a red flag? That hair. I know it's like close to the 90s, but come on. So Lorelai catches up with Rory and she's able to have a conversation with her about the potential of her dating Mr. Medina.
And Rory is not happy, understandably. She's mostly concerned about what the other kids would say, plus the fact that Lorelai kept it from her. But we, the audience, know that Rory is keeping stuff from Lorelai that is going on with Dean, which I also am confused about, because for as close as Lorelai and Rory supposedly are, and they brag about, oh, we tell each other everything, Rory sure is keeping an awful lot from Lorelai.
I thought about this, and I think it's because Lorelai's history with boys, i.e., getting pregnant when she was so young, there is some sensitivity around Rory and boys. There is some weirdness there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think she's just trying to keep her mom from spinning out or worrying or whatever, because there's nothing definitive going on yet. Yeah. That's what I think anyway.
Okay.
Plus, she's such a private kid. She holds everything so close to the vest.
Yeah. Like not even telling Lane,
Yes, exactly. You would think she would tell Lane at least.
Yeah.
So this conversation ends with Lorelai telling Rory definitively, okay, she's not going to date Max after all.
As Rory and Lorelai then enter their house, the phone is ringing and it's Emily.
She tells them that she's been trying to get a hold of them all day, but she hasn't left any messages because she says, if I wanted to talk to a machine, I'd talk to my VCR.
By season 2, we know this is totally inaccurate because there are several instances of Emily leaving messages on Lorelai's machine.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, old tech alert, answering machines. Do the kids even know what that is? And VCRs. I've seen videos where young kids are shown VHS tapes. Is that what they were called?
Uh-huh.
And they don't even know. They have no idea what it is.
Yeah. It's like, remember when we were kids and we would be in school and sometimes, usually we had a VCR, but sometimes we would still have the projectors.
Oh, yeah.
And so now kids, maybe they get the VCR. Emily is upset when she finds out that Lorelai went to a wake for the neighbor's cat rather than her own cousin's funeral.
When Lorelai tries to get her off the phone saying, she's had a big day or she has a big day tomorrow, Emily responds with, "Oh, what? You're going to a raccoon's wedding?"
And Lorelai decides to rebroach the subject of her dating Max, and Rory tells her she can go out with whomever she wants.
Being a little curt about the whole thing, which leaves Lorelai feeling a bit unsettled. But then, right before they part for the night, Rory drops this little gem.
Do you think you could keep him out really late on Thursday night? Because I have this oral exam on Friday that I'd really love him to sleep through.
Score. So then the girls part, they're both happy. Everything's fine. And that was Cinnamon's Wake.
Thanks for listening. Tune in next time for Season 1, Episode 6, Rory's Birthday Parties.
Copper boom!
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review and share with your friends.
If you have any questions or comments, if you feel like we left anything out or got anything wrong, you can find us on Instagram and TikTok at the Gilmore Gals Pod. And we also have a Facebook page.
Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any future episodes.
Copper boom!